Ukraine has made some progress in its counteroffensive operation near Bakhmut in the Donetsk region, according to the latest maps released by the Institute for the Study of War (ISW). The U.S. think tank's latest update said Kyiv's forces continued offensive operations near Bakhmut and in western Zaporizhia Oblast and reportedly advanced on Thursday. Ukraine's counteroffensive to reclaim its territory is now in its fifth month, with particularly heavy clashes taking place along the front lines in the Donetsk and Zaporizhzhia regions. Bakhmut has remained a focal point of the conflict throughout Russian President Vladimir Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. Last month Ukraine announced that it had reclaimed the village of Andriivka, roughly 6 miles south of Bakhmut. Kyiv said that Moscow's forces in the area were left in tatters after the battle. Bakhmut has seen some of the fiercest clashes of the war, and Ukraine's counteroffensive is advancing towards the industrial city. Newsweek has contacted Russia's defense ministry for comment via email. The ISW cited a report from the Ukrainian General Staff that said Ukrainian forces on Thursday achieved unspecified successes east of Andriivka, while Ukrainian Tavris Group of Forces spokesperson Colonel Alexander Stupin reported that Ukrainian forces achieved partial success west of Robotyne, a key village on Ukraine's southern Zaporizhzhia front. Other Russian millbloggers claimed that Ukrainian forces unsuccessfully attacked towards the railway near Klishivka and Andriivka, the think tank said. Russian sources claimed that elements of the Russian 132nd Motorized Rifle Brigade 1st Donetsk People's Republic DNR Army Corps repelled a Ukrainian attack in the Horlivka direction, likely referring to the area between the Bakhmut and Avdiivka directions. The think tank said Russian forces conducted offensive operations along the Kupiansk-Svatov-Kremenna line, near Bakhmut, along the Avdiivka-Donetsk city line, in the western Donetsk eastern Zaporizhia Oblast border area, and in western Zaporizhia Oblast, but did not advance on October 5. It cited the General Staff as reporting that Russian forces unsuccessfully tried to recapture positions east of Delivka 15 km southwest of Bakhmut and near Hurahorivka 9 km northwest of Bakhmut Klishivka and Andriivka. Colonel General Alexander Syrsky, the commander of Ukraine's ground forces, said on Thursday that Russia lost 6 tanks during clashes near Bakhmut. In one day we destroyed 6 Russian tanks in the Bakhmut direction, Syrsky, who is in operational control of Ukraine's ongoing counteroffensive efforts in the southeast of the country, said on his official Telegram channel. The Asgard Group and the Ochi unit of the 120th Separate Airborne Brigade worked in cooperation with the Shark Group of the 28th Brigade, the Klavdik Group of the 92nd Separate Mechanized Brigade, and the head of the Electronic Warfare and Cyber Warfare Service of the 28th Brigade, to destroy the tanks near Bakhmut, the commander added. Our soldiers eliminated 3 T-72 tanks, 1 T-80 and 2 T-90s. While the Ukrainian counteroffensive continues to unfold in southern Ukraine and the Donbass, the Russian military is preparing for the next few months. According to Western intelligence estimates, the Russian military is getting ready to deal with a potential Ukrainian breakthrough by preparing additional defensive lines to the rear of the contact line. Thus far, the extensive, in-depth Russian defensive lines have put a stop to Ukrainian dreams of an operational breakthrough. As a result, the Russian military is reasonably trying the same recipe of success. On the 3rd of October 2023, Ukrainian Melitopol mayor, Ivan Fedorov, said that Russian forces were building additional fortifications on the contested Orikhiv axis. In Novopokrovka, complex underground 2-story bunkers are being built with tunnels and trenches, the British military intelligence assessed in its latest estimate of the war. In Bakhmut, additional defensive fortifications were being built and trenches filled with concrete. Russian officers have also started to evacuate their families from Bakhmut. Fortifications were observed on the southern approach from Robotyne, the axis of Ukrainian forces, the British military intelligence stated. The Ukrainian military is using long-range fires, including M142 high-mobility artillery rocket systems HIMARS and M270 multiple launch rocket systems MLRS to target Russian command and control hubs and logistical nodes behind the front lines. But destroying anti-tank obstacles, infantry trenches, and fortified villages is another, more difficult matter. The bunkers will add additional protection for Russian soldiers and command and control elements from heavy Ukrainian artillery and uncrewed aerial vehicle attacks. The concrete likely reinforces the trench systems in advance of the potentially wet and muddy conditions in the coming weeks. These fortifications and evacuations likely reflect Russia's concern of a further Ukrainian breakthrough, the British military intelligence added. The Russian military has surprised many analysts with its skillful defense against the Ukrainian counteroffensive. To be sure, it's much easier to defend than to attack, but holding back the Ukrainian heavy brigades, several of which are equipped with Western weapons systems, isn't easy. However, a heavy investment in a defensive posture means that the Russian forces will be unlikely to assume the offensive at any time. But it seems that the Russian leadership isn't concerned with that anymore. Playing for time, the Kremlin is clearly planning a war of attrition. Despite losing more than 300,000 troops killed, wounded, and captured as well as tens of thousands of heavy weapon systems, the Kremlin knows that the only way to achieve something in this war is to play for time and exhaust the Ukrainians and, most importantly, the Western coalition that supports Kyiv with military aid. For the time being, the US-led Western coalition of more than 30 countries stands firm behind the Ukrainian cause. However, with the counteroffensive balancing between success and failure, the desire to continue to support Ukraine with tens of billions of dollars might end. The more countries involved, the easier it is for the coalition to fracture. Russian President Vladimir Putin and his advisors understand and bank on that. The General Staff of Ukraine's armed forces reported on October 6 that Russia had lost 281,090 troops in Ukraine since the beginning of its full-scale invasion on February 24 last year. The number includes 620 casualties Russian forces suffered over the past day.